My brother, the Rhodes Must Fall movement is one of the most important interventions that Tumani Makwele gave us.
I need Tumani,
yeah, but definitely get to Tumani, yeah. Because part of what Tumani does is to invite us to a particular way of talking and thinking about South Africa.
Yes.
We are the first generation, some of us are the first generation to come to university as in our communities, in our families. And whenever we come to university, there's also this exceptional feeling of thinking that you have made it in life. You know, you walk with pride. I made it to the top.
University
yeah.
of Africa.
No, we used to say, when we're joking, some of us went to the mountain 2 times.
Yes.
Yeah, went to the mountain in a traditional way, went to the mountain in an educational way. There are people who have never went to the mountain. But it's not, the point is, we used to feel so proud that you'll be even paraded in our community as someone who's going to change society. But in actual fact, it's a lie. It's a big lie. And Tumani's intervention is to invite us to that lie. What is that lie? That education is supposed to be a conveying belt to the market. That when you get educated, you must automatically must go to a market and get a job. Now, getting a job does not do away with the current social relations that we are speaking of. It does not alter those conditions. What it does is to reinforce the status quo in getting money. In other words, it says to us, the value of education is only on the basis that you can go and work for someone else. Are you telling me I spent 4 years in school to learn how to work for someone else?
And many years before that, in primary and in high school.
Yeah. 2, it sort of puts on an ideological point. What is the role of an educated black? Let me go in. A writer I like speaks to this thing, that there was a time in South Africa where it was said openly in the apartheid times, the role of education is to prepare the black subject for his rightful position in society. That was bound to education. It was said publicly that for us, if you are going to go to education, my brother, you must know that you are preparing yourself for your position in society. What somebody does then is to say, post 1994, why do we create a situation as if education is neutral? That's the first thing. Education is not neutral. It has power relations involved in it. And then he invokes this idea that James Baldwin sort of speaks about, that the paradox of education is precisely this. I'm quoting directly. You might think that I'm speaking from my own words. I'm quoting
political philosophy.
Yeah. James Baldwin says, I quote, the paradox of education is precisely this. As soon as one begins to be educated, they examine the society in which they are educated in. Somebody is inviting us to that examination. Why do we have signs, symbols that for other people it would be like it's nothing? But signs are quite important because they are a reinforcement of history and the current power relations that exist in society. Whose memory, whose happiness, whose history is remembered, and whose memory and whose history is forgotten, is a deeply political and power relation point of view. So somebody throws poo into the statue, and at that time I'm sitting.
The campus went ablaze.
Yeah,
that felt like I don't know. It's like the peak of the culmination of this conversation that has for a long time. Because I then got to learn that Rhodes Must Fall actually didn't start when we got here. It was there in many years before that. But it's like now it has reached the culmination because you have done into a Western society of UCT what has not been done before.
Sure, for sure. It was beautiful. But even the things that he chose, the pool.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? What's the symbolism behind it?
Yes. I mean, black people live in shit, literal shit.
Yeah.
The conditions are shitty. The claims are piling up. In Khayelitsha, there was a problem of sanitation, toilets. People campaigned about not having proper infrastructure for toilets. So the city, in response to that, built this thing called Pota, which is sort of like a similar to a packet system, but in a modern advance. Funny enough, the suggestion to build that, in fact, this thing just Adiazi. You know, someone sat down and researched and thought and wrote, and in their conclusion, they said, perhaps this is suitable for black people.
That research came from the University of Cape Town.
Definitely, my brother. Of course. Definitely, my brother. All suggestions that people think are government related, there is a professor behind closed doors who's making these suggestions. So this person sat down and designed this thing and said, it is dignified and justified for black people to take a shit and relieve themselves in these things.
So just to give context, the Pota becomes this, I don't even want to call it a toilet, becomes this dumping place that members of the community in numbers share the place. No, what about the right to living in a sanitary environment?
Does not exist.
All of that does not exist.
Rights do not apply to black people. Freedom does not apply to black people. All of these constitutional things that we praise in South Africa does not apply to black people. I mean, in all honesty, black South Africans only became South Africans in 1994.
And even then, not fully.
Yeah. So Tumani takes this thing next to SIP. And drives to the University of Cape Town. But he's not the first one to do that.
Okay.
May soul rest in peace. There was a movement called Sescon.
I think I've heard of Sescon.
Yeah, very vibrant movement that gave the DA a run for its man. So what he did was to throw poo at the airport.
At the airport?
Yeah, it made a lot of noise. They dumped poo at the airport. They also dumped poo at the Helen Zille's office, the provincial legislator. It became a big deal for months. So Tumani adopted that strategy to say, if our people have to bear this thing on a day-to-day basis, surely to bring it to the university for a few hours, so that they can just experience what it means, to be shit upon on a day-to-day basis. Was this the kind of relations? So he chose the pool. Interesting enough, the whole entire campus becomes mad.
I remember that.
Right? Prior to that, and this is the question maybe I must throw back to you. There's something so funny and bizarre about what moves black people into action, what triggers them into action. Earlier to Tumani's work, we had 34 miners died in Marokko. Nothing happened. In fact, what we got was a political party that emerged from that period, but nothing really happened. You had Angus Tatane being killed in front of our eyes at a service delivery protest. Nothing happened. right? It takes too money to throw Pooh into a non-living statue. Suddenly, the entire country is outraged.
Both black and white.
Both black and white. Whites are saying, you're playing with history. But Cecil Rhodes was a conqueror.
I want us to get to that. To say, someone who's watching, who's hearing this for the first time, which I'm sure people have heard about it, is saying that Pooh was thrown onto the statue. Why? It's just a statue. It's just a rock. It's sitting there at the University of Cape Town by the sports field. Why is it so important that Pooh has to be poured onto a statue?
Well, it's not